Say for example, you got a big pen, and if you think about a Mont Blanc pen, a big pen is cheap. They do it in mass production. You can just quickly buy it, and if you lose it, you don't really care. Um, where differentiation comes into play, obviously it's a unique product. Um, Mont Blanc obviously is quite expensive, and it's not a pen; it's a writing instrument. So obviously just there's a different name. But the main thing is people are willing to pay a premium price for that because of the perceived value. And then focus is more based on the segment that you go. I don't really have an example for that now, but it can either be a cost leadership or a differentiation factor. Cost leadership, I mean, another one that I can give you, which is quite relevant, is when it comes to mines. If you are the lowest cost producer of a specific commodity, like let's say your BHP Billiton and your Western Australia mines have got $25 per ton cash cost to produce it. I mean, that's great. That's up. You're a cost leader. It doesn't matter whether iron ore's at $50 a ton or whether it's at $80 a ton. You're printing money either way. So that's the nice thing about cost leadership if you've got that. Then business model describes money. It's obviously low cost supplier. There's a variety of ones that you can think about. And then lastly, how well has the company executed its strategy? What are the prospects? There's a variety of ways you can do it, but you're going to go through the financial statements. You're going to look at like the CEO said maybe 5 years ago, what's happening now. There's a variety of ways you're basically going to do it. So when analyzing financial institutions, two causes need to be mentioned. First of all, qualitative. A little bit of that you're not necessarily going to see on the bank. We know there's market fair IP, you'll probably see it. So that's one, and then extrapolation. Key record retention. Tap it into a system and it doesn't work like that. Especially if it's a business. Because top of the cycle, you don't want to take that top of cycle. And we're going to go through that when we do how to set up a model on an Excel. Okay, so analysis of financial information. Very, very important when you start looking at the company. You're going to download maybe 5 years or 10 years of historic financial information. I mean, you're going to obviously start capturing that, but you're going to start going through that.
Pause retention. Let's say, for example, you've invested.
How do they get things? Please do a very... I've got no idea. Back to this. So you're probably going to do a 5-part DuPont model. You're going to look at the balance sheet. You're going to look at the working capital dynamics to try and infer how these guys make their money. And if you think about a 5-part DuPont model, you guys have done that in level 1. That's how you look at whether these guys make the money from churning the stock. So that's going to be your food retailers. Food retailers make very little margin, but they churn their stock so often, that's why the ROE is high. An alternative, if you think about a bank is heavily geared. That's how they make the money. They don't make the money through, obviously they don't really have inventory, but the way they make the money is their leverage is extremely high. If you think about something like a luxury retailer, they don't churn their profit or their inventory because they sell one really expensive diamond ring, so the inventory churn is not that high, but their margin is massive. So each one of those, you're going to go through these financial statements, you're going to see financial ratio analysis, you're going to look at how do these guys make their money, how do they compare to other competitors in that market, and whether they're superior and whether they could hold those margins or hold those inventory turnover, and whether there's a lot of obsolete stock in the
prominent
stuff like that. Okay. Other sources of information, releases, investor relations material, all this broad stuff you will tend to find on the it's a big risk. If it's in America, they've got it's called ITGAR. basically the SEC file. You're going to go to that and you're going to be able to get a lot of information from that. If you ever look at the overseas or American companies, you are have 10K. A 10K is just a report, and a 10Q is quarterly reports because they do quarterly reporting in America. Okay, then considerations in using accounting information. One really big thing about accounting information and about financial information is, first of all, not everybody uses. I mean, I know there's accounting standards, but I mean it's up for debate. So there's ways of managing your earnings. So there's provisions you can do. There's provision where in the good years you try and make provisions, in the bad years you release them. You can change your depreciation policy to make things look better than they are. You can capitalize expenses to try and make things look better than they really are. There's a variety of things that you can do. So key consideration for an analyst is to look at the quality of earnings in the statement. It means the numbers that this company is reporting truly reflect it. The question might be, how do you do that? It's not that difficult. You look at the net income of the company, the operating profit of the company, statement, and you see, okay, what is your cash flow from operations? How does that look compared to your EBIT or your EBITDA? The cash flow statement, we've got cash flow from operations.
What?
So you leave the financing activities alone, because that's just how you sell shares, buy back shares, or get debt. How you from your operations, those are the two important numbers. But the most important one is cash flow from operations, because you want to see if this company actually generates cash, and secondly, how does that look over an extended period of time? Okay.
It's not fine.
So how accurate the company's reported information
Well, stay, did I say
is,
no?
and how sustainable the company's performance is going forward.
Those disclosures.
Extremely important. For a company that only gets one source all the time, like you can have a massive contract for 1 year, and the next year doesn't reoccur, and then 2 years later again it reoccurs, or it occurs by chance, that's not very nice. So investors need not to pay too much when it comes to earnings like that, because I don't want to say it's a lot, but because of the unpredictability, you're not willing to pay a decent multiple for a business like that. Okay, so that's why you want sustainable earnings. So generally be reported, low quality.
A little bit, guys. I don't even.
If you go to the cash flow, you want to see that that's true earnings. The company has made a large amount of profit as a result of a positive legal claim. That's not reoccurring, so it's not going to happen again. And the company has made a large, once again, once off, not going to happen again. You're not going to reward a company for that going forward. You're not going to put a multiple on it. It happened, it's over, it's not happening again. Okay, so that's the type of stuff that you would look at from an analysis perspective. And then sources of information, analysis of quality of earnings will include accounting standards, footnotes, and other relevant disclosure. Now, important thing around this is when you're looking at the accounting standards, and it's the most boring stuff you'll ever read if you really look at a company deeply, but sometimes you get a lot of information from that compared to what you would get if you don't read it. So some companies might recognize revenue in a specific way, and they'll tell you this is how we recognize it, which might be slightly different to what other companies in the same industry are doing it, and from that you can infer whether they recognize revenue a bit quicker than other guys or slower than the other guys. Okay, and footnotes is extremely important because that can tell you a lot about the company. Okay. Any questions so far? Are you guys usually this quiet, or is there more interaction? Is it just okay? Okay, that's about right. Okay. Following table presents examples of quality of earning indicators, revenue and gains. We kind of said this already, but if you're recognizing the property even before it's been installed with the client, or classifying non-operating income as part of operating income, that's That's extremely bad. You don't, when you do any of that stuff, obviously you're going to boost your revenue. Expenses and loss, recognizing too much or too little reserves. So once again, you're going to create a provision because you want to save for the lean years, and when the lean years come, you want to release it. That's not allowed, unfortunately.
Let me take you
Deferral of expenses or capitalizing them. I mean, if you take it through immediately, obviously that's not going to make your earnings look that great, but I mean, maybe that's the right way to do it because you're not boosting.
I remember that lecture told me
using aggressive estimates. Obviously, if you think about very long depreciable lives, very high residual earning value of the asset, the residual values. I mean, all these type of things have an influence on your depreciation that hits your income statement. And the thing that's interesting around this is I've actually seen this happen in the market. I mean, I'm not going to tell you which company it was, but there are companies that they literally just change their depreciation policy and then boom, like going forward they look great. All of a sudden this plant has got a much longer life and a much higher value, and something changed, and like, okay, interesting. Okay, that's the way they do it. But it's obviously not a very good thing when you look at it. And one example I want to give you, and I actually did this in business school, so if you look at BA and you look at Lufthansa, and you look at the difference in depreciation policy between those two airline companies, it is massively different. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Obviously, German GAAP and the UK GAAP are different, even though they also apply IFRS. But the more important thing from what I understood is that it has to do with the unions as well. So obviously Germany is much more unionized, and they've got union members on the board and everything. So Germany is much more conservative when it comes to these type of things, and obviously they would put through more depreciation than someone like BA. But anyway, if you start reversing and reapplying it to equalize it, you get to a very different number for the two companies. So once again, even though it's the same industry, the same companies, once you start to adjust for these type of differences, you're going to get very different numbers, and from that you can infer which one you want to invest in, which one, if you have to choose between the two. Okay. Then obviously you can go to your underfunded or overfunded pension fund liabilities. So obviously one way is to say low rate of compensation. You've got a very high rate of your asset growth, your pension assets. Then
my question.
There's a little waiting for you.
You guys didn't miss one. But you got
okay. That's complicated. Okay. Balance sheet and cash flow. Balance sheet obviously liability stuff. That's one way to make your balance sheet look a lot prettier than it actually is. And obviously cash flow reflecting an increase in the bank overdraft as an increase in operating cash flow. And obviously you're just into the CFO, which is obviously not great.
Give the clients all 11.
Anyway. But I haven't seen it. I haven't come. If I come across something like that, I am definitely shorting it. So
make a plan.
Interesting. Okay, just for people at home, this question was ever do companies do that? Answer is okay. Risk factors. Following risk factors can also be regarded as risk factors or red flags in analyzing financial information. We've already said poor quality of earnings, existing or related party transactions. Sometimes a related party transaction, as long as I disclose it, it's fine, but if it's too often and it's a very big portion of the earnings, that is a very, very big concern. You don't necessarily want, especially if the same, let's say the biggest shareholder in one company and is the same person that holds majority shareholding in another company, and these two companies do way too much transaction with each other that doesn't make any financial sense. I mean, that is a very, very big concern, because what are they doing? Why are they doing all this stuff? It might be to increase their revenue. It might be to hide losses or something like that. Excessive officer employee, so excessive officer employer or director loans. So obviously you can get that from the balance sheet usually. High management or director turnover. That's yeah. There's a few companies on the JSE. The nice thing about the JSE, you have SENS, which is Security Exchange News Service. So obviously you can see when a director resigns or when a new one's appointed. So obviously that's a red flag by itself. I encourage you that if you ever look at a company and you're going to analyze it, go to whatever service provider you use. If it's RS, that's obviously paid for. If you want to get a free one, you can just go to ShareNet. ShareNet also is quite good. Type in the share code and you have all the, or you can even go into the JSE website. You get all the SENS announcements for the past year. You can just use there's been directed turnover. Or another thing which is not in here but is an extremely valuable thing when it comes to whether a company is a good or a bad investment. Pay for their 5 million rand or something, the beats, no number 7. But the make money from investments. It's always a good signal if they're buying. Not always a bad signal if they're selling if they've got a good reason. Okay, back to the point. Excessive pressure on company personnel to make revenue or earnings targets. Look at how they're compensated. If they're compensated on share price or on, I think it's actually also yes, if they're compensated on the share price or on specifically just on earnings, then there's ways to manipulate. You can increase your earnings through playing the depreciation policy, or alternatively, if it's not earnings, if it's EPS, then just buy back a lot of shares. So easy to increase your EPS.
Remember any?
Okay. Okay, so just repeat the question. So it's aren't all guys, all executives remunerated that way? Answer to that is two situations. So if they're remunerated on return on investment, good. For example, return on invested capital is a lot more difficult. So to answer the question, yes, they are, but not fully. So if a CEO, if you're, for example, remunerated purely on EPS, just 100% EPS, that is something you can seriously manipulate. You can, for example, over here, on the time period of the target. So let's say it's over a 5-year period, and it's only based on that I can guarantee you, I can walk into a place now and I can manipulate. I think all of us can do that. It's so easy. The problem we have, it depends on how much you can push through, and the auditors don't push back enough, but obviously auditors are not always that good when it comes to pushing back on that. If you wanted to have maybe a quarter of that is EPS growth over 5 years, a quarter of that is ROIC, maybe there's a portion of that when it comes to support happiness of the employee or something like that, it's something else. But if it's only EPS, then it's a big concern. And there's what tends to happen nowadays is a lot of funds, a lot of investors engage with investor relations and CEOs nowadays to make sure that they're actually growing the business and adding shareholder value, not just making money for themselves. Okay. Report disputes and changes in auditors, that's obviously a big question mark as well because few of the companies have done that. Management remuneration tied to profitability or stock price. I just want to know economic initiatives pressures on profitability, pressure on management to meet debt covenants or earnings expectations, and then the issue of legal violations. So if the company keeps on having reportable irregularities, that's important to know. But if it keeps on having that, then it's obviously a red flag. If they keep on getting fined by the JSE for late submissions or anything like that, that's a big red flag. And usually, when that, especially from a point of view that the company does not meet its deadline when it comes to reporting. That is actually, you've got how many, 3 or 4 months to submit your financial.
Client for the employer to evaluate any partiality.
As a listed company, there is serious concerns with regards to your viability in the future. Anyway, that's just my
Good alternatives. You pay for it.
forecasting company performance. So you can do
Okay.
it in 2 ways.
And number 2 is then you can the full cost of the service. You can say, well, I'm paying alternative
characteristics.
vamos a pay another one.
So basically top-down
You can assess the
an analysis on the cement industry and stuff.
yeah,
Anybody care to make
so not as senior.
PPC? How do you, but I mean, what do you think about that? How does the prospects look for some, not necessarily PPC, but for cement guys in South Africa?
Conduct
Okay.
as
How
part
does that work? Okay, that's another dynamic, but that's a very good one. And I believe it's Taiwan, but yes. So imports, very big issue. That's for the guys at the coast. So cement doesn't travel very well, so inland they're quite protected. So the inland guys,
for the integrity.
okay, that's also not doing well. DRC also. But I mean,
That's the main issue.
so we're actually going off track. Actually, a specific thing I wanted to say. So, when you look at cement demand in a country, it's usually a GDP multiplier effect. So obviously there's, first of all, of the country. And secondly, the big thing is, and also if it's close to a port and if they've got good railway infrastructure and so on. But the program, cement demand, if you look at, and you can do a regression model on that based on the fact of what the cement demand is in the country and what the GDP growth, and work out exactly where it goes. So if you look at cement demand in the country, you would tend to start at GDP. Okay, and then you would look at the cost. Now, after that, then you go, okay, what's the installed base? How many tons are imported? How many tons are made? And all that type of stuff within the country.
Interesting one.
But the main thing is you're starting top down. You're not going from the bottom up. So that's the first type of thing. Then, if you're going from bottom up, very specific unit-wise. So an example I'm going to give you here, it's not necessarily cement, but I'm going to go for Apple. If you look at Apple, how the analysts do that, they go
Example,
high airports, etc., and they go per unit, per SKU, per country. They do everything. Very similar when it comes to beer consumption as well. How many liters per capita does a specific country drink? In which segment, what SKUs, all that type of stuff. So the guys goes from a bottom-up approach when it comes to those type of industries. Okay, so top down, very high macro level, and then you forecast down. Bottom up, you go per unit, work out what the contribution is, and then go from there. Okay, and that's usually when you do your revenue analysis. Okay.
what's in here.
Like here is
A little bit of a
the bottom-up analysis is on the retail store. So what they do,
we have, and over here it's given to you.
you can actually do this for Macro and for a few other guys, but you can work out what the sales per square meter is. What's the sales per square meter? How many squares do they have in that specific under that specific banner? And then if they open more or less space, then you can forecast onto that. Obviously, there's a lag effect depending on what type of store it is. If it's a store within a mall, you tend to get maturity quite quickly because you have the feet, because you're paying for it with your rent. But if it's a standalone store like a Macro, it takes a few years before it reaches maturity when it comes to trading densities. Okay, so that's just an idea of how they do it from a store perspective. Okay, then selecting the appropriate valuation methodology. So essentially you can say there's
The CFA
according to the CFA curriculum. You have your absolute valuation methodologies, and that's split into two. You can have a DCF, or you can have your asset-based valuation. So your sum of the parts is an asset-based valuation. Although how you get to a specific segment of that sum of the parts
Now,
might
the
be
Asian guys
appreciated for a multiple.
earlier, everybody,
Price valuation can be like what the underlying reserves are, what even your liquidation value. That can also be an asset-based approach if it's not a going concern anymore. With DCF, there's variety. We're going to do this on Thursday. Free cash flow
okay.
to the firm, free cash flow equity models, and obviously you have your residual income model. All three of those models are DCF. This one more because that's quite easy if you do that. But then again, the company doesn't pay dividends, can't use that one. They pay too late. Okay, and then relative
about
EBITDA, those type of multiples. Now, very important here. Everybody uses PE ratios, myself included. The reason we use it is because it's super easy. But it's important to take note. Although the PE
have most of the
but on the stock exchange is correct, your earnings can be different for the different companies within that sector due to the accounting policies that you use for those companies. So that's stuff that you also have to take into account. But a lot of people, when they talk about a P ratio, they usually talk about a forward P ratio. So just briefly, and you guys sort of touched on
the guys at right price.
if you're talking about historic P ratio, it's your current price divided by the past 12 months earnings. Given this is an American exam, it is the past 4 quarters earnings. And if it's a forward P ratio, it's today's price divided by the next 12 months or the next 4 quarters. So that's your forward P ratio. We're going to get back to that when we do the justified P ratio. So that's quite important. Depending on which tech company. So you can use P. A lot of people use P ratios for tech companies, but remember your
2 pages of a story. They call it
a lot higher than for a normal. So if you think about P, like let's say
there are 10 stories.
Procter & Gamble,
About 60 months in the whole package.
laundry detergent,
But it's just
so that's a consumer staple.
Just like-
it's like 20 something. 4 P ratio.
well, you got stories and this and that. This is a much easier way of answering. I can tell you because what happens over here, guys, is you got 100.
Yeah, so it's absolutely not me.
Really,
I don't say it's wrong with it because it's certain companies you won't use a P ratio, so that you'll use a different metric. Something like a Facebook or a Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Amazon probably can use it now. In the past the guys couldn't, but the reason why the guys do not use it is because of the way that the accounting works first, and secondly, the earnings are not meaningful for a lot of other tech companies. So they would use a EV to sales as an example. I can remember I was looking at you guys know what an OTA is? Online travel agency. Okay, so you guys might have used it, bookings.com and so on. So there was one called Make My Trip, or there is one called Make My Trip, the Indian one. And there was a whole thing with NASPARS and
Well, that doesn't care.
Make My Trip thing.
unless there is CFHR, unless they but just
And the thing is, if you look at the online travel agency, that's the
cause
one
for
was
concern.
that it was making a loss. But if you look at the growth and how the total addressable market of that company was so huge that people didn't care that it was making a loss. They're looking at the fact that okay,
It's a
EBITDA
set
is growing. So if you look at the cash flows, all the cash was generated on EBITDA was reinvested in the company, so they were happy to put a decent multiple on it, but they were using enterprise value to sales, and given those companies are growing, they don't have debt. So it's all equity. And the comparative they were using was Ctrip, which is the Chinese one. So just an example. So Facebook guys will use a PE ratio now and again, but when it comes to something like the online travel agency, and it's very early stage, they won't use it. So like Beyond Meat, for example. I don't know if you guys had a Beyond Meat burger. I had one recently, it's quite good. But anyway, long story short, so EV to sales. That's what's for other tech companies. It kind of grows quite a lot. Perfect. Anything else? Okay. Okay, valuation of the total equity and its components. So it's a variation. Okay,
When
so
I wrote,
when you look at a conglomerate, one way that you can value it is through a sum of the parts.
and if you don't
Now,
he,
I don't want to use
Yeah.
pictures. I need to get
the 3 hours was
Say
still
again?
had time off.
Yeah, that's a good one. Long for life. Yeah. So long for life. Brian Joffrey's. I mean, actually, a big chunk of Spur shares got traded today. Block trade. 10% or so. I don't know if it's him, but anyway, that's it. So long for life. Brian Joffrey's new venture. So they've got
Not okay, 86, 89.
one all-day term, I think, as well. But anyway, the point is lifestyle businesses, and they've got a portion in Spur as well. And the way we would look at that is obviously you can't just value the long for life as a share, what the earnings are. What you're going to do is you're going to work out each segment differently because it's growth,
Okay,
because they've got sorbet man, they've got normal sorbet, they've got
never
it
achieved
goes.
my life.
You can
Okay.
value that
Let's
one way.
check.
Then you're going to
Which is
look
the
at
morning
in-play
paper.
and chill beverages,
Okay,
which is the rich and leach and this, it's called energy drink. You're going to look at that and you're going to say to yourself, okay, there's a lot of growth in people drinking gin. I'm going to put a nice multiple on that, maybe higher than you get on the sorbet one, and then obviously you're going to do the same for maybe a bit
And
growth. It's not as big because maybe Mr. Price Sport is taking a bit of market share, whatever. There's a variety of things you're going to do. So you're going to put different multiples on those different segments. You're going to add them together. There's always going to be some sort of adjustment when it comes to debt or net cash. They've got net cash, so you're going to
good.
add the net cash to that, and then you're probably going to put a discount on that from a conglomerate perspective because it's a holding
Even if you want
company.
to express
There's usually
your
a
personal
discount on
opinion,
holding companies.
prohibits
So
from disclosing
that's all
context.
it's just a discount. So that's that thing there. Okay, so next way that you can think about it as a breakup value of private market value. So that's basically if you break these things up, what the market will be willing to pay for. Okay, as I say, conglomerate discount, you're going to do that. Big thing about conglomerate discount, the company that's got the biggest in rand and cents is probably going to be Naspers. Naspers, I'm sure everyone knows Naspers. They've got Prosus and Naspers. Naspers now owns Prosus and then Takealot and one or two other small SA stuff. But if you look at Prosus, Prosus now owns Tencent and a bunch of other stuff. Okay, none of the South African stuff anymore, but the majority of it is Tencent. And then if you actually work out the third of Tencent that Prosus owns, then you actually realize like, okay, it's worth 130% what Prosus is worth currently, and then you get the rest of the stuff
I
obviously
call you by the wrong name, please.
more
Just
than
shout.
50. But the fact is there's a discount there, and people always apply that.
Class. Well,
And that discount widens depending on what's happening in the market.
Dawn finishes her.
And the reasons for the discounts is internal capital inefficiency. So maybe the company doesn't spend the capital efficiently. Endogenous factors. So internal factors, for example, company might
Just if I actually
pursue
done
acquisitions that were not related to the business activity, just to hide poor performance in their core business. That is Steinoff written all over it. And then research measurement factors. Yeah. That's seen as a good example. Okay. Some are of the opinion that ongoing discrepancies do not exist, but just occur due to incorrect measurements. Okay. Whatever. I don't necessarily agree with that. But my thing is that if a company keeps on doing acquisitions and you have to restate the financial results that's been occurring for the past 5 years, start asking questions. There must be a reason for that. Okay. Issues in model selection and interpretation. Okay, so what valuation model do you use and which factors need to be taken into account? First of all, characteristics of a company. As you correctly pointed out, you're not going to do a PE ratio on a tech company that doesn't have earnings. So PE is not going to be good, depending on what data is available, and it must be consistent with the purpose of the valuation. You're not going to do a dividend discount model if you're going to take over the company. You're going to buy the entire company, because then you determine the payout ratio, so it doesn't help you. You're going to do a free cash as the firm valuation, because you can completely change the capital structure of that company. Okay, then the purpose and intended customer of the valuation.
That's
I'm just going to touch on this. If you work for an investment bank and you sell your research, in other words, you produce research reports and you go to all the fund managers and the analysts that work at the different investment houses and you tell them what you think about the share and so on, you are a sell-side analyst. That are these guys and ladies. Okay, so you sell your investment services. How they get remunerated, obviously there's MiFID II that's coming to play, but it's quite strong at this stage. But how it used to work, and it still kind of works in South Africa like that, is that you direct brokerage to them, and because you put your trade to them, they charge a small commission on the trade that you do for them. Okay. Then you have buy-side analysts. Those are the guys working for the fund managers, recommending which shares to buy.
they're doing what?
Coronation, Alan Gray, all these guys have got buy-side analysts. So Salsa will be Merrill Lynch,
You've got her
Investment.
charter,
And then
you will work with accounts, and
company.
you can post a picture of it onto LinkedIn, alright, and send it to all your contacts. I love seeing those pictures.
So let's say you're
She
working
does
at
it
a
and
corporate
it
finance
says-
house. Let's say
That's
Standard
what she
Bank,
can
and you
post
want
on LinkedIn, like it.
to, let's actually say RMB because that's nice. So nicer example. Not nice, nicer example. So RMB is going to do the whole thing with First Rand and RMH and all this like unbundling
Members of
and
the
all that
council
stuff.
not
So obviously they're going to do the valuations are presented, or even the Remgro. If Remgro wants to get rid of their Grindrod position, obviously maybe high likelihood that someone like RMB will do that for them, and then obviously they would want to have valuations for the underlying businesses. Maybe they split up Grindrod and the different pieces, who knows. And then lastly, independent analysts may also offer valuation advice and things. So those are usually industry experts that sell their stuff. And the role of the analyst, okay, when analysts perform the job correctly, this will help clients, capital markets, as well as the suppliers of capital. See if I correctly manage this, because this is the whole reason why I do this. Clients can now meet their investment objectives, capital markets run more efficiently, and suppliers of capital know where to deploy their capital. And that is it for this one. Any questions? Okay. Guys, I'm gonna save this quickly. Do you want to take a break now or after the next session? Now, okay. Let's work on this clock. It's 7:20. Can we be back at 7:30? Please. Thank you.
No rule for that.
3.
Okay, you put your designation.
So guys, we're going to try and do 3.
Okay.
One down.
Any questions? Okay. Yep. Yeah.
What's the
I'm
date?
get it. But I'm there's no formula given to you in LinkedIn. No. No, 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 no. No. But also I teach you how to learn formulas. As opposed to we don't do a lot of proper learning over here. Okay. By the way, by the time you come to dad, all for hard learning. The problem is the paper. Be allowed. Okay, I was hoping you were joking, but
When a company's core focus or core competency is one thing and they try and take a chance on.
put it into your calculator.
So we went to Nigeria. There you go. And we're like, went to Nigeria, what are they doing there? They're doing crap, they destroyed value.
That
One way to look at it.
get Being honest, I couple sessions. Cut up and then extract.
Why did he do that? Is it? I mean, obviously, he was the darling CEO up until the year after.
Yes, to the exponent, T mighty times. It's not crazy stuff like it.
Really bad allocation of capital. Complete. Yeah, that's I mean, like, let me think about something. Yeah, but that's an awesome business. I mean, Nigeria is an awesome business.
What are you doing?
Well, that's part of playing in Nigeria. So NTN did it right. Tiger Brands did it right. Okay, that's maybe not a good example. It's just
too much about
guys.
It all seems like so crazy. When you go
in the
back,
80s, there were all these conglomerates, and they were just okay. Let's do this. Let's try and do this. Let's try and do this. And then they like really don't. They've got no reason to do that. That's an example of inefficient capital. I'm just using guys that have maybe misallocated capital. Like Tiger Brands is maybe an easy example, but MTN is
quick.
Okay. I can
Look at this one. Wow.
Not all of them, but I would say
Look at that one.
95%. I mean, if you
I don't know what into the one
another example.
Bottom. Wow.
Stellar Capital. Long for Life. Is another one. Well, Naspers is the most obvious one. There's a specific one I'm missing now.
They give you all the little things
but
behind.
It's like there's a variety of those. These are just
that formula's got. You can take that formula out now. But it's a bad looking one, isn't it? Wow.
And if you look at
it's
one company that's not really a conglomerate.
Okay, because it's
got two different business units. Is capital appreciation. Capital appreciation valuation is insanely cheap. I mean, this thing has got this is trading at 70 to 75 cents a share. It has bought back a lot of shares. Like I'm talking about 15 to 20% of the company it's bought back. It's got 40 cents